Hey guys, this is Mr. Grice for Algebra Semester 1 Review Packet. Alright, we've already done Units 1 and Unit 2, which means it's time for, that's right, Unit 3, Writing Linear Equations. So, couple equations that you're going to need to remember for your note card. One, you're going to be hearing us talking about point slope, and that's the y minus y1 equals your slope, x minus x1. Okay, so that's point slope. Okay, you're going to hear us talk about slope-intercept. Okay, sloped-intercept, you should know by now, is the y equals mx plus b. Okay, and the other thing we're going to talk about is the formula to find slope, which is the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if you haven't put those down on your note cards, I highly suggest that you do it now. Okay. All right, let's get started. So the first part, they're only asking for a point slope equation. So that's what our answer is going to look like. It's going to look like a point slope. Okay, so let's pay attention. It says a slope of -9 that passes through the point to -7. So remember, your first one is your x and your second is your y. Okay, so now all we have to do is fill in the blanks. So our slope is -9. That's where the m goes because that's our slope. And now the x is 2 and the y is -7. And when we have two negatives, that turns that to a positive. Okay, so we have y plus 7 equals -9 parentheses x minus 2. Okay, and let me show, I'll have my work down here and then I'll write it nice right here. So we have y plus 7 equals -9 x minus 2. All right. Number 19 says a line parallel. Ooh, parallel, that sounds like a keyword. Do you remember what parallel means? Yeah, that means same slope. So I need to find the slope and steal it. And now we're going to start plugging everything in. So my slope that I'm stealing is the -1/2. And remember which one's your x and which one's your y. And same thing that happened with number 18, since I have two negatives with that -4, it turns to a positive. So all they want is point slope, so this is how I'm leaving my answer. -1/2 x plus 4. Okay, now next part, they're asking for slope-intercept. Okay, so that's the y equals mx plus b. So it tells us that our slope is -4, so our slope is -4, and our y-intercept, okay, y-intercept, remember that that's our b, is -2/5. Okay, normally when we write our b, we use that as the point. Okay, so if I'm putting that into y equals mx plus b, all I have to do is fill in the blanks. Our slope is -4, and then our y-intercept is the -2/5. Okay, and just because there's a fraction, it doesn't mean that that's the slope. Okay, number 21. A line that contains the point, -2/5, and a slope of 2/5. So they told me a point and a slope. Well, that means I can go into point slope, but they want our final answer in slope intercept. So this is where we actually solve it. Okay? So I'm going to put the 5 there. This changes to a positive 10. And then my slope is 2/5. Okay, so the first thing that we would do is distribute. So we get 2/5 x. And now in our calculators, sorry, I still haven't fixed mine. I have 2/5, so I'm doing that in parentheses, and I'm timesing it by 10. And I get 4. Okay, y is not by itself yet. So to do that, I would have to add 5 to both sides. And then we get that y equals 2/5 x plus 9. All right, number 22. A line that passes through the points 1, 4 and 2, 7. Ugh. They didn't give me a slope. So what do I do? Well, this is where we break it down into 2 steps, okay? The first thing we need is, that's right, I need to find out what the slope is. So I'm going to use these points and plug it into our slope equation. Okay? 7 minus 4 is 3. 2 minus 1 is 1. And we always want to reduce that if possible, so we know that our slope is 3. Well, now I have the slope. How do I do this? Well, now we would go into point slope. And we can pick any point we want to. I normally pick the one with the smaller numbers. Okay? So we know that our slope is 3. And then I'm going to use the point 1, 4. Okay, so the first thing that we would do is distribute. 3 times x is 3x. And don't forget that 3 times 1 is 3. To get the y by itself, we add 4 to both sides. And then we get our answer of y equals 3x plus 1. Okay, next one, 23. So a line that is perpendicular to negative 4/3 x plus 12 that contains the point negative 8, 6. So there's something I have to do with that slope. We need to remember what perpendicular means, and that is the opposite and reciprocal slope. So when I steal that slope of negative 4/3, I need to change it to the opposite and reciprocal. Well, it's negative, so the opposite of a negative would be a positive, and reciprocal means I flip it. So I'm going to use 3/4. They give us a point. So now we're going to plug it into point slope. So my slope, the opposite reciprocal slope, is 3/4. And then we get 6. And then this changes to a positive 8. So I'm going to distribute the 3/4 x. 3/4 times x is just 3/4. And now in the calculator, 3 divided by 4 inside parentheses times 8. And we get positive 6. Now we are not done yet because the y is not by itself. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides. And we get y equals 3/4 x plus 12. Oh, let's make that look like a 4. There we go. Okay. Number 24 and number 25 say to write the linear equation of the line represented in the graph. So Remember that when we're writing an equation, the two things that we need is we need the slope and the y-intercept. Okay, so the first thing that I notice is the y-intercept, and that's the point 0, 5. The next thing I need to do is I need to figure out what my slope is. Okay, so what am I doing from one point to the next? Well, I went down 1 and then I went to the right 3. You should notice that this graph is falling, so it's going to be fall over run, which means my slope should be negative. And it is. We said that it's a negative 1/3. So now I'm just going to plug that in. Y equals negative 1/3 x plus 5. Okay, number 25. The first thing I notice is that this line is vertical. Okay, remember we said that vertical lines, our slope is undefined. Okay, now if you don't know right off the top if this is x or a y equals, if you haven't memorized that, what I would do is make a couple points and tell me what are those points. Well, the first one is, I'm going to start at the top. It's negative 5, 5. Our next one is negative 5, 0. And then that third point is negative 5, negative 5. Well, what do you notice about all of them? Oh, it's all x, so x equals negative 5. Okay? Now, if you memorize that, oh, vertical lines, undefined, they're always x equals, boom, you can just go to x equals negative 5. Or not negative 5, I'm looking at the wrong number. Negative 7. Thankfully, that's a quick fix. Okay. Sorry about that. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Now it's asking us to write a slope-intercept equation to represent the real-world situation. Okay, so we know that Luis has a starting balance of $800 in his savings account. That sounds important. Let's highlight that. He withdraws $30 each week for food. Let X represent the number of weeks and Y represent the total balance of his bank account. So that's always important to know that X equals the weeks and that Y equals his money in the bank account. Well, remember that each is telling us slope. So I know that slope has something to do with 30 and he's withdrawing that. So is he adding it or taking it away? Withdrawing means he's taking it away. And then B is that 800, which means he's starting with $800. So to write that, we would say that Y equals negative 30x plus 800. All right, 27. Enza has a job that pays a base salary plus commission. She receives $25 for every book she sells. During one pay period, she sold 3 books and made $225. Write an equation to model this situation. So right away, I want to know what is X and what is Y. What do you think? They're talking about books and money. And in this one, X is going to be our books and Y is going to be our money. Now, the two things they told us is they told us the slope and then they gave us a point. So the point books is 3 and 225 is our x. She receives $25 for every book she sells. That's our slope. That's the 25. So looking at this, they gave us a point and a slope, which means I'm going to plug into, that's right, point slope. So I know that my slope is 25. And then our point, there's my x, and there's my y. Let me zoom in so you guys can see that. Okay, why don't you guys pause the video and see if you can solve this all on your own. Good luck. Okay, so let's watch my work. Distribute the 25 and we get 25x minus 75. Add 225 to both sides and we get y equals 25x plus 150. Okay, last one for unit 3. It says a moving company charges a flat fee plus charges for every mile driven. Ashley drove 300 miles and was charged $25. Joey drove 150 miles and was charged $175. Write an equation to model this situation. Well, the first thing I noticed is that they gave us 4 points. So if they gave us 4 numbers, blah, 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 that means we have 2 points. Okay? So I need to figure out what my x is and what my y is. And my pen stopped for a second, so please hold on while I figure this out. Okay, sorry about that delay. That was really weird. Anyways, we need to talk about what our x is and what our y is. So y is normally our money, so that means x is going to be our miles. So let's look at our 2 points, okay? Our first point in yellow, x is 300 and y is 250. And then in our second one, our blue one, we get 150 and 175. Well, what do we do when they give us a slope? Or did they give us the slope? No. Okay, so when they give us 2 points, we need to plug in, figure out what our slope is. Okay, so on the top, 175 minus 250 is negative 75. And 300 minus 150 is negative 150. And remember, we always want to reduce. And then we get our slope is 1/2. Now, they're talking about what? They're talking about money, okay? So our slope here is we would want to change that to 0.50. Now, here's the thing. When you're doing this, sorry, there are 2 ways that we could do this. Okay, you could do it plugging in the 1/2, or you could do it with the 0.50, the 0.50. Sorry, I didn't give you a lot of room right there. Okay, so you pick the point, you solve it either way, and then tell me what the answer is. Okay, good luck. Okay, so you can see my work using the fraction and using the decimal. I used the same point, the 150 comma 175, and then I wrote my answer using the decimal, but it doesn't matter which one you pick. Okay, but it's y equals 0.50x plus 100. All right, guys, well, that's it for Unit 3. If you have any questions, please come find Ms. Carranza or myself. We would love to help you out. Otherwise, this is Mr. Grice signing off for Algebra Semester 1 Review Packet, Unit 3. Thanks for watching.